Hi, Bashi here with Saunders Speech and Voice. I wanted to talk a little bit about closing the quotient for voice masculinization. So, anatomically, folks who have experienced an estrogen rich puberty or AFAB folks typically have anatomical difference with their vocal cords compared to folks who have experienced a testosterone rich puberty or who are AMAB. The vocal cords themselves thicken, they physically gain mass when exposed to testosterone. So when they come together to vibrate, more of their surface area is touching, which creates a more kind of like pressed heavy quality to a sound that's a bit more like this, as compared to a lighter, breathier contact that estrogen rich vocal cords have to them. So with the E chords, the estrogen vocal cords, just the edges are touching, which allows a lot more air through. There's also kind of a notch at the back of the vocal cords, even when they're making their nice contact for voicing, that allows air through, that creates this lighter vocal weight just inherently for femme speakers. When we're thinking about masculinization, we're going to need to add, especially if we're not using testosterone or HRT, we're going to need to add more pressure at the level of the vocal cords to take some of that breathiness out. We call this closing the quotient, or creating a greater proportion of time that the vocal cords spend together. So instead of them just spending a lot of time apart and gently coming together, we want to increase the proportion of time that they spend pressed closely together, which will create just a heavier vocal weight and a more masculine quality. So a great way to do this is with what we call a hard glottal attack, or making the vocal cords come together intensely. The tricky thing about this is you don't really have a lot of sensory feedback with your vocal cords. You can't really tell how far apart they're stretched or how hard they're coming together. We can just set a cognitive intention, listen to the result, and then adjust from there and kind of create these data points to get a better understanding of how to produce this. This is a really tricky component of voice training, so be gentle with yourself and just stay curious with the process. The first strategy that I like to use is kind of like a seal grunt or like a caveman grunt. So if you go down to your practice pitch, in one of my previous videos, I mentioned wanting to go down to the bottom of your range and then come up just a step to find your practice pitch. So we're not wanting to really push super hard low in the range. It just doesn't feel good on the instrument and isn't super sustainable. So the first thing I'll do is find my practice pitch. Oh, right about here feels a lot more stable. And then from here, we're gonna do like a seal grunt. Thinking about getting that harsh or that intense glottal attack. What we don't want to hear is which has a bit too much breath in it. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So find that harder glottal attack, closing that quotient a little bit more, and then count, see what it's like to apply that to a speech task immediately after, with that idea of more pressure already primed in your system. Another great thing that I like to do for vocal weight is a quotient glide. So just kind of feeling the difference of a really light, airy vocal weight, a little bit higher in your range, and then as you drop down closer to your practice pitch, adding a bit of volume, intensity, and support to kind of close that quotient. I like to think of it as kind of like vacuum sealing out the air as you go down. A great thing to do here too is put a hand on your chest and really tune into that like deep, intense, rumbly, bassy quality that comes with this. So we'll start lighter in vocal weight. At the top, really light and airy. At the bottom, a lot heavier. Now I have E chords, so there's going to be a level of breathiness that sneaks through that is really, really, really hard for me to eliminate just because of the anatomical bounds of my instrument. But there's a really big difference between 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, how's it going? Hi, how's it going? The pitch is essentially the same, but that vocal weight is a lot heavier. Let me know what you think. Comment below if this was helpful. If you have any questions that I can help illuminate.